Welcome to Investors Insight with the day. Today's topic is oil rising, Fed on the hot seat. First, you'll notice there's only three of us today. Greg is at an investment conference, and then Adam Van Zant and his wife Claire had their first baby boy, Watson. So beautiful baby boy. So congratulations to them. But guys, let's dig deep. It's big news over the weekend. There was a drone strike on a Saudi oil facility that drove oil futures to go up 15%. That's the biggest intraday jump in almost 20 years. Trey, talk about that and why that's significant.
Yeah, so there was an unexpected strike on Saudi oil field, and while the U.S. is energy independent now, the globe is not, and it's a reminder of how volatile oil can be when so much of it is produced in an extremely volatile part of the world. So Saudi Arabia still produces a large percentage of the world's oil. So this strike took out roughly 5% of global oil production. So that's why you see all that spike over the weekend, because we've taken out a large percentage of the amount of oil that can be produced. Now, the U.S. is going to do everything it can to ramp up production to try and fill that gap, but that's definitely going to have a negative impact possibly on global economies. Because we're going to see that price go up, and that's going to hurt the cost of the global consumer. So how quickly can this be fixed, and can the supply and demand become rebalanced? That'll be what we're going to have to be watching closely. Because a 1 week spike isn't really that impactful. If it goes on for weeks on end, that may have a negative impact globally.
Yeah, so what is that going to do to the consumer? How long is it going to last? What does that do to consumer spending, which has been pretty good so far? So
right.
We need that to hold up and figure itself out. So the other market mover here is the Fed. The Fed meets this week. We still expect for them to cut about 0.25%. We saw China ease 2 weeks ago. We saw the European Central Bank take significant action last week. We expect our Fed to follow the course. But the problem is with core inflation rising, the Fed's in kind of a tough spot going forward. So it's the verbiage. What is the Fed going to say? They could disappoint this week with what they say. Even though they might cut, it's what they say going forward that could be the potential market mover. So watching that carefully. And then also actually talk about the technology sector and a lot going on there.
Yes, and what Bobby's mentioning is last week, by count, there are about 48 state attorney generals around the country that are jumping in and filing antitrust actions against big tech. Well, the U.S. Justice Department has sort of jumped in there too. We've got a lot of questions of viewers. That's obviously a big sector. What does that mean? And has this ever happened before? The answer is you'll see a lot of press about it as this, we're breaking new ground here and this and that and the other. The truth of the matter is this is the third time in U.S. history this has happened. If you go back to the late 60s, there was a very large computer maker and designer that ran afoul of antitrust. The government lost that. If you fast forward to the early 1980s, we all remember the communications industry. That was a settlement by a lot of breakup there, but if you look at it in time, that's kind of been reconstructed again, just the way that those type of companies work. But the interesting thing about any type of antitrust against a sector, as they say in the law, it doesn't matter if you say it, you have to prove it. Mm-hmm. So when you're reading about this, it's going to be a proof issue to us. You never know for sure because you can't predict the future. But to us, it's going to be a major proof issue. Has the consumer been harmed? Legal actions like that against antitrust when you're involving technology, it's not a matter of what you think may happen. It's what the damage actually is. So, number one, we've been here before. We've had this type of suit. As Bobby was saying, the technology sector in the United States employs 12 million people. That's a lot. So I think a lot of this antitrust is going to tread very carefully around that, number one. But if you're looking at it from a competitive point of view, Bobby and Trey and I were talking about this morning, 40,000 new tech startups came in just in 2018 alone. It's hard to look at that as an industry and say competition's being limited. So that's going to be interesting to watch. It's going to be a lot of press on it, and we just wanted to give you a little bit of a peek down the road of what you may see on it.
Yeah, something to watch because technology is a big sector. We've seen what you're talking about caused a lot of volatility in the sector the past few months. So
that's right.
Something we're watching carefully. So with all the geopolitical events happening, we want to make sure we answer your questions regarding how does this impact your portfolio. So please give us a call, email us. We love to hear from you. Have a great week. Thanks.